down to check. So this is brass quartet. So okay, are you guys playing? You're playing Prayer and Alleluia. Is that different than what was? You, I had you down to play Canzona per Sonare.
Oh no.
Okay, it's not a big deal. I just want to make sure I have the right form.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're playing Prayer and Alleluia. Sounds good. Okay, whenever you're ready.
Okay. Yeah.
Excellent work. Thank you all very much for playing. Can I get real quick, what year is everyone?
Senior.
Senior?
Sophomore.
Sophomore.
Freshman.
All right, so we got the range here. Oh, except for juniors, no juniors. Okay, yeah, so how many times have you guys played in ensembles like this before?
For like us, it's like pretty much every year.
This is my first time.
Yeah, okay. I had it last year. Oh, okay. So it's you get assigned to an ensemble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you don't. So you guys know the unique challenges of playing with a group like this. Obviously, there's no director. There's nobody to tell you when you're like right or wrong. There's nobody reading the score. You kind of have to do this all on your own. So this is a really, really great exercise to make you a better musician all around because you have to keep yourself honest. Now I can tell you, all four of you are very strong players, and a lot of things happen well just because you're all very strong. For instance, you guys blend very well because you all have decent tone quality on your instruments. So decent tone blends with decent tone. You know, there's nobody sticking out with like a fuzzy tone or anything that's really, overly bright or anything like that. I also like the fact you had very solid tempo. One of the things, I'm sure you guys have played with the group where you're like, oh my good lord, somebody's just going off on their own. It doesn't happen here. Everybody's got solid pulse, which makes, that's like step one. You can't do anything unless everybody's got solid pulse. So, some stuff you can do with this. Now this is a nice piece that you can play, for like if you ever have an event for where they need background music, you can play this at like local churches and things. Easter's coming up, you can get a gig, you can get some money, right? Play Easter Sunday or Holy Week there and make some money. It's kind of nice. You don't think about that when they stick you in one of these groups. But what I would like you to do actually is I want you to play the first movement much slower and the second movement a little bit quicker. Okay, it's a small change, but it's going to make a big difference. Let's start. We can just start at the beginning real quick, and I want to give you guys the tempo. Now we're playing this in cut time, right? That's how it's marked.
Yeah.
But it's going to be so slow. You might almost want to think about it in 4. Okay, let's try it here. 1, 2, ready, and. Slower than that. It just makes it more dramatic. Sometimes we like to play everything is around 100 beats a minute or 120 beats a minute, anywhere in there, because that's what's comfortable. That's our heartbeat range and things like that. That's our step range, and then everything starts to sound the same. The other thing that's tricky about a group like this is there's nobody to tell you who has the melody. Right? How many times the band director stop you, or the orchestra director say the melody's over here in the French horn. You guys got to listen. Oh, okay. So maybe if you're good, you're right. Melody's in the French horn. Well, here there's nobody to tell you that. You just got to listen and know. Pretty much everything I say or anything your band director says can be replaced with the word listen. So you could do all these laundry list of things or just really listen. And in a group like this, it forces you to listen. So listen for where the melody is, right at the top. Ready? We're going to go slow. 1, 2, ready, I heard that happen too, which is another, actually, it's a really good skill. If somebody gets lost and they get right back in, that's another good thing. So where was the melody at the top? Yeah, French horn's got the melody, but this is the thing, it's not band. So you're not going to have the melody for like 8 measures at a time. You're going to have melody for a measure, and then it's going to get passed around. Everything, since it's a smaller group, everything is more nimble. You can have the melody for a note and then pass it back on. So the melody is probably not the trumpets in unison. Like, we get it. So when it's your time to come out, you might just find yourself those 2 notes are your melody, and that's all you get. There was something else. Oh, dynamic range. We don't have any woodwinds. So if you think of this as like the brass dynamic range, right? You probably only get to use like this much of it in band because you can't overplay the woodwinds, and you have to be heard over the percussion. So you never get to use that low end. Well, here it's just brass. Everybody's got a similar dynamic range, which means you can use the whole thing. So look at where you play your biggest. You don't have to play your biggest without getting yelled at. You can play your biggest. And look at where you play your softest. There's only 4 of you playing. So you don't have to worry about getting varied. When it's soft, you can play soft. Like I said, you're all strong players, so you know the technique. When you play soft, or if you're by yourself, are there any sections you know you're like 1 of 2 people, maybe you're playing by yourself?
Like at the end where the key change. Or like there's a bunch of like solo forte playing, but
Yeah.
or there's a bunch of like solo piano playing where like for example like Jordan's playing like 1 or 2 notes by herself.
So in those sections, if it's marked piano, you can play soft, but you have to keep that air moving. Right? This kind of, we can get away with it in band if you play like, oh, I gotta play really, really soft here because I can't cover up the oboe or something. You have to play so soft that it's just kind of like falling out of your face. You're just like this, and then you get that kind of that sound going on. Here you can have a nice, fast, small air columns. It's kind of weird. You play soft, you almost use kind of a smaller air column that's even faster. It's really weird. It seems like that would make it louder, but it actually just makes your sound more consistent. Okay? Let's do this. Let's look at the second movement, because when it comes to dynamic range, I feel like we actually get to use it there. And this is something that's very common of these kind of older tunes. It's just about, like an echo. So it'll be like, da 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 da, da 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 da. So we're trying to make it sound as though it echoed back off of some distant rocks or something, but obviously it's just a group inside of a social studies room, so we have to create that illusion. Okay? Let's play, I'm trying to think of a good spot where this occurs. In the second movement, let's start, we'll start right on bar 10. You guys have bar 10 marked? I know you're finishing a phrase here, so your first note's going to kind of be out in the middle of nowhere. But here's your tempo, quarter notes. Here's right 10. 1, 2, ready, and. Big. In the way. You don't have to worry about them. You get to set the volume, and actually who sets the volume is always going to be the lowest voice. So as big as you can play is kind of our limiting factor. Okay? So let's do that one more time from the same spot. Right on 10. 2, ready, and. Keep that air moving. You have to get it out of your horn. When we get soft, sometimes we don't give it enough to even make it out the other end, much less make any sound. There's a good example here in your first phrase. I believe it's in the second trumpet part. Bum, 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 bum. You have a quarter note on beat 2 in bar 11. Or where's second trumpet? I'm sorry. So you have a quarter note on beat 2. It doesn't say anything about playing louder, but you're the only one with a quarter note. So it's ba da da da. Try it. Just give me a little kick on that, and I'll tell you, it makes everything sound better. Right at 10. 1, 2, ready, and. Yeah, just little things like that. It doesn't say it anywhere, but since it's not banned, you don't have somebody go, hey, can you do that for me? You just have to say, I'm going to do this. Okay? This is a very strong group. You guys have all of the required things to put a lot of music together. You play in time together, you all have good tone, and I wrote on the sheet too about intonation. You listen and you make adjustments, which is something that sometimes doesn't happen. People are like, I'm just going to play my D, and if it's out of tune, well, that's my D, so deal with it. But I would encourage you all to develop more ability to move your pitch, right? So on the brass instruments, you can move your pitch very easily. You can sometimes do it with a slide, or you can sometimes do it with your chops. But work on, like when you warm up, taking your pitch and bending it downward. And the reason I say that is because I could tell when you guys played, you could hear, oh, this is out of tune. But then you might not have enough technique to actually change it as far as you needed to. And it happens. When you play in a group like this, you're like, you play something, whoa, I really need to go sharp. So develop the ability to push things, a large distance, that way you can match the pitch. You're hearing it, that's step 1. Now being able to match it is step 2. Okay? Thank you very much for playing this morning. I want to make sure we're not too far behind or anything like that. Do you have any questions for me at all?
No, thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much for playing this morning, ladies. You sound wonderful.
Very